But I'd like to call Dale Katechis and Chad Melis to the stage now from Oskar Blues. Folks who I think need no introduction. Dale certainly is one of the folks that have pushed the canned beer craze from the start. The first craft beer in a can. Dale, welcome.
Thank you.
And I don't know how many of you know Chad, but this is the guy that I talk to most frequently. And yes, coffee. So I invited these guys here to talk a little bit about what they've called their chaotic company culture. You guys have so many different projects going on. You've got a coffee company, you've got 2 breweries, you've got a bike company. I'm sure I'm missing some stuff. You've collaboratively helped invent the crowler, and I know I keep hearing people ask. I got a phone call the other day asking, what are your thoughts on the crowler? So you guys are in so many different places with so many different businesses. How do you keep it all together?
We don't. Next.
Right, next question. I think it's best described maybe as probably diagnosed, untreated ADD, fast at work, and it's a big part of our culture. And you give people, good people, a lot of room to go create. And for example, Reed Bicycles is Chad's baby, and it was it allowed him to this outlet outside of just stamping out Dale's Pale Ales every day, which kind of can tend to make you feel like you're stamping out widgets. And so they're all little pods around, I guess this dynamo or that is Oskar Blues.
Right. So I guess I have the question here. How would you describe the Oskar Blues company culture, and how has it evolved? It seems like you guys certainly allow for a lot of creative experimentation. You encourage folks like Chad to go do something fun and see where it goes. You've described it as chaotic. How do you, I guess, motivate some of your employees to go be entrepreneurs in a sense, but and you still give them a paycheck?
Yeah, I want to hear your version.
With the opportunity with Reeb, for me, again, it's finding a way to be creative and have that outlet. And I think there's just a lot of room, as you mentioned, and the chaos. There's not a ton of structure with how we move forward. I think we really just look, often we look for opportunity that excites us and something that we want to get after and really be passionate about. And you just kind of start knocking walls down and going in that direction and finding momentum and having fun with it. And it takes on a life of its own, or it doesn't. There's definitely things that we've gotten after that we thought was going to be a huge, opportunity or priority, and maybe it wasn't the right person in that spot, or it just wasn't the right time for it. So I think we don't try to force things. We find something and we just get after it.
Dale, how did you arrive at this idea of, letting chaos sort of run what you guys do internally?
It happens. It's like Alan said. I not a big planner, and we're very reactionary, and we've been very fortunate and probably lucky. But lucky sometimes is probably best disguised as hard work. And when you surround yourself with people that work really hard, I think at the end of the day, there's a result. And we certainly don't like to see any opportunity pass us by. And so we do take on some projects that, might not necessarily work, but the ones that we all can center around and create some energy and make sure that the fulfillment is still there, and the quality of life and the things that got us into the game are still there on a daily basis, then I think you get a win one way or the other.
Right. As you guys grow and as you start to add more people to the Oskar Blues business, does there ever come a point where some of these projects are just distractions? and and you need to, really kind of focus on what's really driving the business.
Sure, we're challenged by that. I mean, that's a big part of our culture. If you talk about the different threads in our culture, it's the distractions that are there are they serve a purpose to some extent, but at the end of the day, we have to focus on what's paying the light bill, and in our company, we know that Run DMC, or Dale's Mama's Chub and now Penner are the things that pay the light bill, and so focusing a sales staff of 70 people on that and driving that home every day when maybe some of the other things are a little bit more fun because it's it is a distraction. It's kind of like having class outside for the day. It's a little more fun, but driving home that message that the bread, the money makers are important.
Yeah, but I think the culture is made up of the people. You don't just say what the culture is and then it happens. You have to give leeway to people, and they create the culture. And we're all based on in that Oskar Blues wheelhouse. And the distractions or the opportunities or the creative outlets, really they're all part of the culture because it's somebody that was passionate about it, and they're chasing it, and it develops into something that typically kind of helps cross promote with the moneymaker. We're all there because we're passionate about Dale's Pale Ale and Oskar Blues and the culture that we've created and the people we work next to, and they often don't stray too far. I mean, the bike company, it is part of the beer, and we make it right on site. It's part of the culture, and they all kind of help each other grow. And you definitely have to prioritize, and you got to stay focused. But it's all really intertwined because it is organically part of the culture because it's grown out of the passions of the people that make the culture. So
Right.
They stay aligned pretty well.
And part of the Oskar Blues culture, when we were discussing earlier, like a couple weeks ago on the phone, you said it boils down to this sort of mantra of own your shit. You just kind of have to own it and get it done. And as long as you know what you're doing, you know what your job is, and you own it, you can feel free to explore on some of these distractions. So I guess, what does this mean to you, both of you guys, and what does it mean to employees? This idea of owning your shit.
Well, I think that it, like I said earlier, that everyone is allowed this opportunity to kind of explore their own entrepreneurial spirit. And there really are no directives because I don't necessarily have a whole lot to offer them other than the fact that I put my foot on the gas. And so as these little pods of, people are building their, whether it's a company, which some of the things like the coffee and the bikes and the farms and have been created. It happens in departments as well, and so you have people that really truly work it and run it like they own it, and with that comes some freedoms, and but also what comes with that is a lot of responsibility and accountability. I mean, we as a company, we've had over the years have had to embrace accountability. There were in the early days we didn't have it, and we've had people that have come onto our company. John Bryant, who's here, I give him credit for helping us establish a level of accountability, but alongside allowing people to really explore and be their own boss, because I don't think anyone wants a boss, and I think it's important that we let that culture continue as long as Chad goes home every night and he's worried about, and everyone, the other 200 employees have to carry that weight, and you don't just leave it at the door. So that is a big part of it.
How about the retention aspect of that? I mean, because obviously you're encouraging people to be their own boss. What happens when they do want to go be their own boss?
I don't think there's anything greater. I mean, we've had it happen, and we've had brewers move on, and to me, that's success.
Right. But you've managed to keep a lot of people who, you've managed to keep that entrepreneurial spirit and keep a lot of people who might otherwise have gone and tried to start their own venture. How have you guys done that?
Opium. Secretly add a little bit of opium. Those people that moved on, they weren't drinking enough, you know. And, no, I think as the culture, and Chad hit on it, one person can change your culture, good or bad, and I think we've been fortunate to attract enough people that safeguard and protect that culture. So anyone that comes on board, they're a positive to the culture, and it's kind of what keeps it going.
Right. Speaking of bringing people on board, you guys just a few months ago sought the help of a financial partner to fund the acquisition of Perrin in Michigan, and potentially some more breweries down the line. You're obviously bringing them sort of underneath the Oskar Blues cultural umbrella, if you will. How's that transition going internally, and have you guys learned anything in that integration process?
A lot has been learned, for sure. As far as our day-to-day business, nothing has changed. It's really just been, from the beginning, we, financed this project on, cash advance checks and credit cards. And finally, a couple years later, we got banks to talk to us. And so, I've solely owned the business throughout its, 18 years. And it's basically a new banking relationship with good people who, oddly enough, are maybe even more aggressive than we are on irreverence and things that are important. And I think the topic of I think even me and maybe even our industry, everyone seems to be surprised that we've all built these successful businesses, and we have an industry that we're still very proud of, that's growing. And our mission is to continue to do what we've always done and have fun doing it, and be the dynamic that is Oskar Blues, and now doing it with people that we thoroughly enjoyed, that are going to help us grow the business and take it to the next level. Because from the early days, we've always loved that accelerated exponential growth, and I think that what we're seeing in the industry, it's probably going to get a little more difficult, and we want to make sure that we're prepared for the bloodbath.
Right. The bloodbath. I know that's been tossed around.
Okay, maybe
a little
poor
bit.
choice of words.
Well, no, I mean
Fun, healthy competition amongst colleagues.
It's definitely. It's definitely. I think Sam Calagione used that phrase as well last year. Sort of foreshadowing this, this quote unquote bloodbath that's coming. How do you see that taking shape? Since you brought it up, what do you think is coming down the road? With all these new competitors and just all these external pressures?
I'm the wrong guy to speculate, but I would just say that even from what we're seeing so far, that I'm sure pricing will be involved, and maintain with the amount of breweries and the whole topic of local, and there's just a lot of unknowns is the way I see it, and we've always tried to be prepared, and that's really what we're doing is making sure that we're positioning ourselves to. We do actually have been forced to set some goals, long-term goals, and something more than a week, and so and we have some fun things that we want to do. I mean, we have a long list of other companies and other breweries, and that's what keeps it fulfilling for me. Is the oiling the machine every day doesn't really excite me. So as long as we've got projects that make sense and aren't big distractions, and they can add to what we're all about, then that's what I want to be involved with.
Right. And I think looking to the future, it's exciting for us, exciting for me, the way Oskar Blues kind of goes to market, in that we don't have this overarching strategy that we have to follow. We continue to look in an entrepreneurial way for opportunities, and then just be aggressive at chasing them. and being creative about it. And that's what's really exciting for me as we look to the future. It's not that, we have this plan and we have to do it, and you go and you stamp out the plan. I mean, there are some plans, but the culture that Dale has kind of cultivated in that entrepreneurial way is exciting, just knowing that we're going to always continue to shake and push and find opportunity, and then have the freedom to just chase it, because we're not deviating from this plan that we have to stay with. Right. And it's exciting. I think it's engaging and keeps people motivated, and makes them want to own their shit, because they're kind of finding the opportunity and going out and getting it.
And encouraging risk-taking as well. But as you add a partner like Fireman, and you start to grow, and you get to a certain point where maybe a little bit more structure, some putting things into a tighter box is a bit necessary, especially in areas like sales and marketing and some of the nitty-gritty day-to-day stuff. So how do you balance the need for structure with this built-in culture that you guys have of go do it, take risks, make mistakes, it's okay? How do you balance those two?
Money. I think as long as you're making money, everyone's happy, and we've done a good job of that over the years. It's been a core, and we're in business, so I think that's as long as we don't lose sight of that. And obviously, when you bring more people to the table, it becomes a bigger topic. But I think our company still has a long way to go in organizing or having structure, and we have a culture in place that no one's afraid of that. As long as we're still having fun with what we do, and we haven't forgotten what brought us to the dance, then I enjoy the process of learning and taking on new challenges, and that's one of the things that continues to keep me engaged, is that it's not the same old thing every day. And if you get presented with a challenge, then you go out and you conquer it. Right. And if that comes in the form of maybe a little more structure, because we have to put something in a box, then my job will be to make sure that I still bring snakes to the office and let them loose every once in a while. It's true.
That is true. Or goats, or whatever. Goat shit all over the place.
Or bring nitro cannons and blow shit up, right?
True.
Yeah, when you blow shit up, people kind of lose the whole corporate mentality, and they at least forget about it for the day, and then
And I mean, that concept is not just physical things. I mean, you can walk into the office and blow up that day, and you get a reaction, and you get an energy, and you get an engagement out of that. It's part of I think the engagement and the passion that we have there is that concept, to some degree.
Yeah.
Well, our front door says Oskar Blues Anti-Corporate Headquarters for a reason, and that sign is never coming down. So it's and everyone involved with our organization now gets that. So it's a daily reminder that, hey, we can easily spin ourselves up into oblivion over bullshit, and but that usually is someone's ego that gets in the way, and you're trying to feed that. And as long as we can keep that out of our culture, hopefully we'll continue to have some good success.
Yeah, and I think it sounds cool, like, oh, anti-corporate, but I think it is meaningful in how we do things every day, and it is kind of that shaking things up and blowing it up. And there is a certain amount of structure that you have to put around it, but I think the inner workings of some form of chaos, and whether you call it anti-corporate or whatever, it's embraced by everybody, and it creates this energy that's just buzzing, and it's bigger than one person or your team, and just it's a growing energy that everybody kind of gets their opportunity for ownership.
Right. So speaking of chaos and blowing shit up, I wanted everyone to have sort of a visual of what that looks like at Oskar Blues, and I know we have a video of the nitro cannon. If we could, cue that up and actually show what you guys do sometimes when you do blow stuff up. Do we have that video? Maybe we can show it. So is that what it's like every single day at Oskar Blues? You just blowing stuff up?
That's what it feels like.
In a couple different forms, I think, yeah.
No, in reality, actually.
Yeah, and that kind of comes from the distractions, all around as well. That cannon was built by Crystal Frayne, who welds all of our bike frames, and I think it's a product of that creativity and those additional directions that come together and feed that Oskar Blues culture overall. I think that bike company could be seen as a distraction, and you could go too far down that road, but in the end, it all really intertwines pretty well.
Right. So I know we're, just about approaching time here. A couple final questions for you guys as we, sort of help some of the other entrepreneurs in the audience think about identifying their own cultures cultures internally. I guess, how important is it for beer companies to have this strong sense of identity that they're, that they're sharing with all of their employees, and that everybody sort of embodies one personality? And B, what advice or suggestions would you have as some of these, smaller breweries that are, maybe following a similar path to what you guys were doing, look to build their own cultures internally?
Don't do what we do, because that'll just piss me off. No, it can't be contrived. You can't force it, and it's just, it has to take on its own life, and you just, it's hard to define. We don't sit down and talk about what it is. For us, we feel like we have a brand that is very authentic and raw and a little edgy, and it's. That comes from a place that we didn't sit down in a boardroom. It kind of evolved, and I think everyone kind of takes that on in the company, and
So yeah, I think it's a lifestyle. I mean, it's what we do, and it attracts the type of people that like it and thrive on it. And I feel like we have a very strong, thriving, culture, and it's because we live it, and people either get run over by it, or they love it and they build on it, or but I think it's authentic, and it's because it's what we do. I think we live it.
Right. And there might be some companies out there that don't quite know what their identity is, or they're still trying to feel it out. They're not sure what their culture is all about. Are there any sort of strategies or tips for starting to think about that stuff? If you had to put it down into words, like, you've obviously, keyed in on this sense of chaos, and that really kind of identifies who you guys are. How do you help somebody find their, single defining word of what their culture is?
I mean, I think you just work your ass off and you find out what's fulfilling, and you just keep doing it. And some thing's going to come out of that, and you're going to go about things one way or another, and stay true to who you are, and it's going to be rewarding and fun. And it comes down to hard work and looking back and seeing what, how did I do that, and that's essentially, I think the path you end up going down. I don't know.
Yeah, the customer knows if you're faking it, and I think if you don't come to the table with that, or at least some, foundation, then I think it's kind of hard to build on or create. For us though, it is a very kind of evolving thing. It's very dynamic, and there's a core that we hold tight, but other than that, we're open, whether it's someone else that we bring on that adds a little flavor that we like. And, we pick up things that, Chad and I were just talking, you pick up things in sessions like this that you're like, fuck, and you take it and you build on it and you keep an open mind. And that's, to me, that's part of the challenge of learning something new and keeping it exciting.
Yeah. Well, speaking of keeping things exciting, I think we might have some beers available at lunch, so hopefully that improves the excitement through the last half of the day as we all get a little liquid encouragement. Thank you, guys.
All right, cool. Thanks, Chris.
Cheers.
Appreciate it.
Thank you very much.